Good morning, everyone. My name is Feyi Shayo Ogunisi, and this is a presentation from me celebrating Black History Month. And in this presentation, I'm going to be comparing Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Malcolm X was an African American Muslim minister and human rights activist. He was a leader in the civil rights movement, and he was also a supporter of Black nationalism. He urged his fellow Black Americans to protect themselves against white aggression by any means necessary, a stance that often put him at odds with the nonviolent teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. So this is a picture of Malcolm X, and this is a quote from him. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister and civil rights activist in the United States in the 1950s and 60s. He was a leader of the American civil rights movement. He organized a number of peaceful protests as head of the Southern Christian leadership, including the March on Washington in 1963. He promoted nonviolent direct action as a means of protest. So this is also a picture of Martin Luther King Jr., and this is a quote from him saying, "The time is always right to do what is right." Who are they? Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X are widely known for their influence and impact in civil rights movement. So they basically impacted the civil rights movement in huge ways, and they were often viewed as opposing forces, and they really weren't, because they just had like different approach due to their different backgrounds and upbringings. Dr. King was portrayed as a non-violent insider, and Malcolm X was just somebody who wanted things and was ready to go by it by any means necessary. He believed that Black Americans have the right to self-defense when being bullied and oppressed by whites, while Dr. King wanted them to protest non-violently so that they get what they wanted, which was freedom. So this is a picture of them. They only ever met once in history, so this is probably going to be the only picture of them. You see? And Venn diagrams stating their similarities, things they have in common, and the ways in which they differ. Example being, they both had different religions, they had different approaches, and they both went to jail for totally different reasons. And things they have in common, they were both fathers, they were both activists, their religion drove them, and they both spread global awareness in different ways. Food for thought. So this is for you. Were these two men really ideologically opposite? Did they share any common ground? Were they enemies, or did they just do things differently? That is for you to decide.